2 years ago today in response to a question from Katie Tur, who just anchored the hour before us. We'll take a look at what the president said then. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
Malcolm, we were all around back then, and in the media, I think it's fair to say it was kind of passed off. It was laughed off. How do you think history will end up judging that moment in the Trump campaign?
Well, happy Russia if you're listening day. And I think that it will resonate throughout history just like that. To be honest, just 24, almost 36 hours before on this network, we made the first warning that this was a Russian attack on the United States and on the electorate. And I know by that morning, we were taking it pretty seriously on air. But I don't think people understand the capacity of these foreign actors, in this case, Russia, in creating not just a social media storm where the media just took off after it, but also creating the meta-narrative around the entire election that Hillary Clinton's emails were bad, and they just played on our own investigations in Congress and our own freedom of speech, weaponized it and then used it against us. And that's why we have a situation where we have a president of the United States now may in fact be beholden to a foreign power, like Clint said.
Malcolm, how's it going to go down with your colleagues and members of your life's work that the National Security Advisor in the White House is now kind of trolling the Mueller investigation by using the phrase witch hunt?
Yeah, there has never been a national security advisor who is so blatantly and openly political in this way. I mean, John Bolton just came out and used witch hunt right out there as if this was a legitimate way of doing governance in his position. It's dimly looked down upon, believe me. There's a lot of people in the community, and I'm sure throughout the political world who just were astonished at this. But Russia has to be delighted, because now this means the narrative of the entirety of the Trump administration, from top to bottom, in every aspect of government, from national security all the way over to the guy who's cleaning over at the GSA. Everything is now a witch hunt, and that, of course, plays to our opponents.
Clint, I have to read you a headline from the New York Times tonight, David Sanger's piece. Russian hackers appear to shift focus to U.S. power grid. That gets your attention. His lead sentence is, state-sponsored Russian hackers appear far more interested. That's what got my attention. Far more interested this year in demonstrating that they can disrupt the American electric grid than the midterm elections. And he goes on to cite U.S. intelligence officials and tech company executives. What do you make of that?
They're trying to build essentially options, and whether it's warfare or negotiations. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, they didn't actually turn out the power. They're not doing an act of war. But this is actually leverage that you can have. So we know about this now. What do we have to do? In the United States, we have to go around and check all of our electric systems to make sure that there isn't a foreign adversary that's in those systems, and we have to then safeguard against that. That can be used as a tool. That's a negotiation tool that they can use in terms of dealing with us. I think what's important to recognize is that hacking is going to continue, but the targets will probably shift. In the 2018 midterms, sure, I imagine that the Russians will do some sort of audience sustainment. You know, they'll repeat the narratives that are pro-Russian. But what do they gain, really? How much can they really gain with the election of one senator or a congressman here or there? What they can gain, though, is building additional capability and going after things like the power grid, water, other utilities, looking into other sources of information, or hitting even our financial system, which is a technique we've seen from other state actors, going after U.S. institutions. The banking sector maybe is a target. Those are things that are different capabilities that they can try and build out, and we've seen them use these sort of attacks in Ukraine. Ukraine is almost always the test bed that they use for their cyber warfare. They launched an attack called Black Energy. during the middle of winter and actually shut the power off in that country. And they use these attacks very successfully, both as a warning but also as an intermediate step to full war.
Our thanks tonight to two really smart guys who live and work in a scary world. Clint Watts here with us in New York, and Malcolm Nance, who has written all of the books behind him. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on a Friday night.